Hey, welcome back to Score on Business. Our next guest is Blaine Weiss. Blaine is the founder and president of the Provincial Development Group, a professional services firm that he launched in 2004. They work with small to mid-sized businesses that have flat or declining revenue to help them achieve their growth objectives. They also assist with transition and exit planning. So Blaine, you know, I have you on about once a quarter because you have good content and you've helped a lot of folks. So tell us about a client you've collaborated with and what you were able to achieve.
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you, Pete. I always enjoy being on with you. I appreciate the,
sir.
I appreciate the invitation, and it's fun to talk. So, in terms of your question, you know, one of the most simple but profound things that we can offer clients is hope.
Yeah.
And all too often, an entrepreneur is one of the most isolated individuals on the planet.
Yes.
They can't necessarily talk to people that report to them. They can't necessarily talk to their spouse. They can't talk to their competitors. And one of the reasons that there's groups like Vistages and CEO peer groups is that there's such a sense of isolation. And by the way, if you're the guy and you're making payroll or trying to, and you haven't got it figured out, sometimes pride or the appearance of wanting to have all the answers can really get in the way of seeking help. So one of the first things that I think that our model provides for is a genuine relationship with the client. Recently I got introduced to a financial services firm in Seattle, and I asked the gentleman here who was introducing us, I said, why us and why not someone in Seattle? And he said, so many folks that do what you do come at it from a transactional standpoint. They get in, they see the dollar signs, they think they can quickly get in and out and make some money and move on, whereas your approach is very relational. You start with people and you make sure there's the right fit, and then, you know, if it leads to an agreement or statement of work, that's fantastic, but that's not where you start. And I thought that was one of the highest compliments that we could have been paid.
I can't think of anything higher. I can tell you I try to build relationships always. Good. Okay, so companies should differentiate in order to stand out from the crowd. So can you tell us a little bit how companies have done that, and and how you've done that?
Sure.
Or how you help companies do that.
This is a little bit philosophical, but I really think it's important, and that is this. I read a book called Thou Shalt Prosper by Rabbi Daniel Lapin, and one of the book is about why the Jewish culture has succeeded in business against great opposition since the Jewish culture began. And the premise of the book is that there's a recognition in that culture around serving people and business being built around serving people instead of getting money. And I think one of the number one ways a company can differentiate themselves is to go in with that mindset. If you have a need and I have the ability to uniquely meet that need, then it's not first and foremost how quickly can I get your money. It's first and foremost, can I serve you well?
Right.
And if I can't serve you well, then I shouldn't be doing business with you. I should find out someone who can.
Yeah.
So that's the number one thing I would say. The second thing is business, like you said a moment ago, is highly relational. I mean, one of the criteria I have for working with the client is, do we get along? You know, would we enjoy having dinner together? Because if we wouldn't, then it's very unlikely, because of the nature of our work and how deep it is in terms of that, the implications and the life of the families that we're affecting and all of that. If we don't have that fundamental connection to be able to speak truth to each other, hear truth from one another, and genuinely care, then we're not going to be able to differentiate ourselves in a way that I think is constructive.
That makes a lot of sense to me. Okay, one of the things you focus on with clients is building an ecosystem that enables transformation. And what do you mean by that?
Yeah, this has become one of my favorite concepts, and I wish I was smart enough to come up with all of this on my own, but I'm not. But it's this. Many folks have been through a training or a conference, and they go in and they get really excited. And a great local example is, I think Dave Ramsey and his Entree Leadership is a fantastic program. So you go in and you hear about how to grow your sales team and how to grow your leadership and how to build culture, and then you come away with, it's all about one thing. Well, it's not ever about one thing. If it was just about one thing, it would be simple. You would have done that one thing and you would already see the results. So the ecosystem is, think about it with air conditioning. If you air condition your home, that's creating an ecosystem at 72 degrees or whatever the temperature is, right? But in order to sustain that ecosystem, you need a floor. That could represent a part of your company. You need walls, you need insulation, you need a ceiling. If you don't have all of those components that make that ecosystem sustainable, then what you do is not going to last, because if you were to air condition your room but you had no ceiling, it would just be wasting money. So the point in all of this is, the ecosystem is not what's the one thing that's going to make this transformation possible, but what are all of the components? What's the team that you need? What's the talent that you need? What's the communication strategy that you need? What's the leadership model that you need? What's the compensation model that complements that? And I could go on all afternoon, but I know that we don't have that much time. But the fact is that companies that perform with excellence, they just don't do one thing well. They do a lot of things well, just like a sports team.
Right.
The Nashville Predators, they have a great coaching staff, they have a great goalie, they have great defense, they have great offense, they have a great team around them, right? So all of those things make their ecosystem sustainable, and that's the kind of thinking that we want to install with our clients, because if they're not successful beyond our work with them, Pete, then we have underserved them and actually done them a disservice, because artificial dependence on us is a very troublesome legacy, I think, to leave behind.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.